Hello and welcome to this demo video. Before we get started, I'd just like to explain to you a few things which will relate to all of the basic range spreadsheets. Number one, there is a key on the intro and setup tab of all of the spreadsheets showing what the different color headers mean. The blue headers mean that the cell's formulated, so it's locked and you can't change it. The yellow headers are where you can input data, and occasionally there might be some gray headers, which is just a different kind of data input, but we'll include instructions as and when that happens. The other thing that you can be aware of is there are ways in which you can damage the spreadsheet. So please do take a look at the link where you see this image, which will take you to a web page to show you how to better preserve your spreadsheet. Please feel free to keep a blank version of the spreadsheet somewhere, so that if you do mess up a spreadsheet that you're using, you can in fact just open a new one, a blank one. And some of the spreadsheets only last for a year, and then you've got a blank one to start the following year. So do keep a blank copy as a backup somewhere. And lastly, wherever you see this image, you can click on it. It'll take you back to the store where you purchased this product to see if you've got anything, any more products. One last thing, to see a demo video, you can click on this on a link that looks like this in order to go to the demo video, but that'll take you to the most recent demo. If in fact we've done upgrades and you're using an older version and you'd like to see the demo relating to your version, then do click on the watch on YouTube link, which will take you to that specific video on YouTube. So I think that's all you need to know. So without further ado, let's move on to this demo video. Thank you. Hello and welcome to this demo video for the Florist recipe and stem count. Now, I have a confession to make. I know absolutely nothing about flowers or florists or stem counts or recipes or anything like that. This is me. I've made the spreadsheet basically on the request of somebody, and they've talked me through this very, very briefly. So if there's any terminology I use, please forgive me. I hope that you understand what I'm trying to get across to the spreadsheet. Yeah, so let's give it a bash. What this does is every time you as a florist need to go and do it for a wedding or whatever else you might be creating flowers for, you've obviously got a whole bunch of centerpieces and bouquets and things that you need to make, and all of those consist of different flowers and different pieces that you're putting together. What this does is allows you to itemize all those different bouquets or centerpieces or whatever it is you're making, and also to then select what ingredients or flowers you actually require for each of those pieces. And then what this does is it will not only help you to break that down, but then it'll give you a complete count of how many bunches of each different flower you need to go and purchase, and what your wastage is, as well as the cost and everything else. So let's go through and show you how it works. It does a lot of stuff. It's fairly straightforward to use if you follow the instructions. Let me give you those instructions. First and foremost, project name, you can put in obviously the name of your project, that's fine. And then you can progress to, I would skip the flower requirements for now. I would go straight to the flower bunches. These are the different kinds of flowers that you got obviously. Now, when I say flowers, it doesn't necessarily have to be flowers. If it's other things like, for argument's sake, candles or ribbon or whatever else you use, you can still apply it here in these in this list. It doesn't necessarily have to be something flowered. In fact, there's a stock column here which would indicate that it's not a flower. I'll show you how that works too. So what you do is you list all of your items down here. Don't list the same item twice. Make sure you've only got unique items. If you are to do that, it'll flag up as a duplicate, so don't do that. List your items, and then what quantity do they come in. So if they come in bunches of 10 or packs of 10 or 5 or 20 or whatever, put in the quantity of the pack. This is your stock column. If you keep leftovers, so this obviously wouldn't apply for live flowers because they're not going to last, but what about things like candles or ribbon or things like that? If you've got something left over, you can keep it. Then all you do is you simply tick that column. All that's saying is don't worry about wastage on this particular item because I can use it. If your items are going to be thrown away afterwards, then don't tick that because you wanted to show you the wastage. That's all that column does. And then put in the price of the bulk, not the price per flower, but the price per bunch or package or whatever it is that you're purchasing, and then put the price in there. That is all you need to do to set up that particular tab, list all your items. You can list up to 100. You can only use 60 per project, but you can list up to 100. So if you want to keep like a database and then use the spreadsheet, every project you do open the spreadsheet, you've got that database already typed in. So you've got all your prices and quantities and flower types and what have you. That's great. These figures here won't be here at first because you haven't put the other information, but I'll show you how to do that. Then what you do is you come to your flower requirements. Now this is what you complete per project. So let's just take this out for now, and let's take these ones out here for now. What you do is this would all be blank, so you wouldn't have filled in any bouquet or piece quantities. All these headers are blank. This whole section will actually be grey because these numbers won't be here. And what you'll do then is you will then come and select from your list of your flower bunches which flowers you're going to use in this project. Now, as you see, as I select flower 1, when I select flower 2, come back to this, flower 1 and 2 are gone. I can select flower 3, and obviously as I select the flowers, they disappear from the list. If you've only got 60 flowers on the flower bunches list, you can select them all here. When I say flowers, obviously other items as well. If you've got 100 or more than 60, you can only select up to 60 on this list. So make sure you select on this list what you're going to use for that project. Now the reason why I didn't have it automatically come up here is because if you now come and add more items onto here and you resort it, if you add more items and you sort them into alphabetical order, these headers will all change if they were automated. That's why I've allowed you to select them here. So once you've selected it here and you filled in information, don't go changing anything here, because if you change one of the existing ones, it'll change the header. It's not going to change the number, and then everything's going to be out of whack. So once you selected what you need, leave it, put in the figures. If you find something else that you need, come to the bottom, select something else if there is something else, and then it'll appear at the end of the list and we'll keep adding on. So this, as you select items down the left-hand side here, what you're going to be needing for this project, they'll appear as headers, and then you can simply name each bouquet or piece down this list. As I said, you've got 60 pieces as well. You can list all the different pieces you're going to be making. Actually, how many? No, you got 60 pieces. So you can list up all 60 pieces, and you can then actually say how many quantities of each. So say 2 of those, 3 of those, 5 of those, whatever the case might be. Here we've got 2, 2, 2, 1, 1. Then simply go across, have a look at each column, each different flower that you require or item that you require, and how many of that item. So how many flower 1s do I require for piece number 1? How many flower 2s do I require for piece number 1? How many flower 3s? So you may not even use all of these. You might not, for example, you may not need any in flower number 3s for piece 1, whatever the case might be. You don't have to put a number in, you don't have to put a 0, just leave it blank if there's nothing there. Important thing is to name the pieces. Again, don't name any duplicates. Put the quantities in, and then wherever you require something. So if you require flower 3, piece 1, how many do you need? 2, 4, whatever the case might be. Now that 4 isn't 4 in total; it's 4 per piece. So each one of these. So what this will do then is when it's calculating how many flower number 3s do I need, it'll say 4 times 2 plus 2 times 2 plus 2 times 2, so it will multiply it out by the quantity that you put here. So each of these would be per piece that you're making, how many flowers of each of those flowers do you require. That's as simple as that. Once you've put these numbers in, as you can see, I've gone for light, dark, and as you can see, it goes blue, green, so you can see the green light, the green columns and the dark and light rows as you go across. So it helps you to know what is you looking at, where to put the number. That is it. It's as simple as putting in those numbers. As you put in those numbers, it will show you over here what you actually require, how many you require. These are individual items, how many bunches of packages you require. Then what it does is it shows you usage of the last pack. So here, for example, you require 22, so you buying 30. So your last pack, you're actually only using 2 of them, which is 20%, so you're throwing away 80% of the last pack. So now what you can do is you can see the red ones here have got quite high wastage. That's got 0 wastage because I've ticked to say I can keep them in stock. If you take that out and go, now I have to throw it away, you can see there's a 60% wastage.
So now if you want to change that, what you can do is you can look here and go, hold on a second, I don't want 80% wastage on that one there. You've got 20, you're using 22, you're 2 over basically. So how can you reduce that wastage? So if you can get rid of 2 flower number 3s, so then what you can do is you can possibly come here and go, well, actually, uh, this one over here, piece 3, we can take those 2 flower number 3s out. And then if you come back here, you see now all of a sudden flower number 3 required 18. Ah, yes, because we took out 2. In fact, you can say, well, instead of 2, there are 2 of them. You can say we only need 1 instead of 2. Now, when you come back to your flower bunches, so this just helps you to kind of play around with the flowers you've got to make sure you've got the lowest amount of waste. Here you can see your total waste, 29% of all the last packages. So that is your overall waste of everything that you've got here. So you want to try and keep your waste as low and your usage as high as possible. So you can go back and change things and switch around. And then once you get to the optimal value that you think is correct, what you can do is you can come here and you can say, are there any extra material costs that are occurring for this project? If you say, well, you're buying other material that's not listed on here, that's say £30, and you want 100% markup on materials, and you want a 30% labor markup, you can put that in. So what that'll do is it'll take this material cost plus everything you've accumulated here, and then it'll multiply it by that percentage to get your new price, and then it'll multiply it by that percentage to add on the labor price markup, and it'll give you the total. So when you come back to flower bunches, you'll see material costs, which is the total here, total materials, which is obviously adding on the other cost that we put in, what's your markup, what's your labor markup, and then it gives you the total value over here, your project price, which is essentially what you'll be charging. Now, is that inclusive or exclusive price of VAT? Well, that's totally down to you. There's no VAT considered in the spreadsheet, so it would depend on what prices you're putting in here, and it'll depend on what prices you are putting in here. So if you're putting in exclusive of VAT, if you're not VAT registered and you've got to pay the VAT, then you put in inclusive VAT prices, and it'll give you the price obviously if you put an inclusive VAT price, it'll give you the price you need to charge. If you are VAT registered, this will still essentially spit out the price that's inclusive, exclusive VAT. You just need to add VAT on, but just bear in mind that you're going to be claiming back the VAT from your cost, if you can in fact do that. So this doesn't necessarily include VAT. In fact, I would say if you're unsure, take that as the exclusive VAT price unless you know what's going on. But it depends what prices you're putting into here. If you're not VAT registered, well, that doesn't really matter. That's the price that you charge. So yeah, I hope that that all makes sense to you. A lot of it doesn't. A lot of the flower talk doesn't really make sense to me, but I hope that that makes sense. I understand what the spreadsheet does. And yeah, I wish you all the best with your flower business. Thank you and goodbye.